Hey, Dale.
What?
We have the bot whisperer on the show.
Do we?
Yes, so we have to discuss the final as quietly as possible.
Thanks for that.
Hi, bot whisperer. Meet bot bellower.
What? Do I really have to whisper for this show?
No,
Or can I just speak in my normal tone?
You can speak in your normal tone, and I'm sorry to the shunt posting listeners for shouting at you. Did it hurt your ears?
It didn't blow up my ears, thankfully. No. I still have them, so I can hear the whispers of the robots.
You can. So what made them decide to have the bot whisperer on the show, or did you just want to talk more on the show? Is that
As if I don't talk enough. Well, there was a discussion about wanting to add a builder to the conversation with Chris and Kenny, so that they could sort of throw questions and have things there and have a builder's perspective. And they had a couple of candidates, and it didn't really work out. And then somebody must have, in production, went, "What about Pete? Like, we already had this great interview from the Remars event. He was awesome. So why don't we just bring him in? And besides, he's the one we all go to anyways for all the information." And then they just sort of asked me, like, "Do you want to do this?" Like, maybe. Like, will the internet hate me? Because if it does, I'm not going to want to be on this. But they said, no, I think the internet will like you. Let's see how this works. And so here I am, sitting, right there next to Greg by the door, watching fights and giving my, opinions of what I think is going to happen. What I think is happening at the moment. Plenty of times Chris and Kenny have said, "Pete, what's going on? Their weapons stopped." And I've had to sort of respond in kind with, "No, they're just holding back. They're probably overheating, and they're kind of biding their time to be able to use their weapon again." And that's kind of how it came about.
It makes me now think that your request for these build reports was actually you being sneaky and getting all this info from the builders about their robots to use for the bot whisperer.
It's everything I do is what I would have done anyways. Like when I used to report to Chris and Kenny and give them information so that they had something to talk about, because that was always my job for the previous 4 seasons, is I got all the intel, whether it was strategy right before going in the match or whether it was changes that happened in the pits, and I would relay that to Chris and Kenny just before the fights so that they could talk about it as the fight was going on. And build report, and then what was asked of me of the producers is do the same thing you always do with Chris and Kenny, but save a tidbit for yourself, because that's what we want you to talk about, is the one that you saved for you. And so that's what I've been doing.
Did you give them a Rickroll?
I did not. I saved that just for you.
Right, speaking of fights, we'll tuck into some fights. Dale, who was the first up on the cards for the final episode?
Well, we start off with a tribute to Elvis because this was a hunker burning bot.
Oh.
Oh dear.
Yeah. He's here all night, Pete.
Yeah. You don't even have to pay him. Yeah.
It's Ribot versus Black Dragon.
I have to say, this was one of my fights of the night, to be honest. A barbecued Brazilian dragon, anyone? Pete, how did it stay alive for that long whilst cooking? That's not a prelude to a joke, honestly. That's a genuine question.
I believe it burned for 2 minutes and 4 seconds of the fight. Crazy. Of a 3-minute fight. It was on fire the entire time. This is a testament to a build style that I fully appreciate, which is, redundant based systems, separating your weapon from your drive completely, so that when horrible things like this happen, that was their weapons battery that was melting down to slag. But since the systems were completely isolated from each other, you didn't burn all of the wires back to your main speed controllers. You didn't lose your receiver. they had that separation, which made, yes, the fire itself could have gone through the bot, but they had compartments that were pretty solid that kept the flame from transitioning through the rest of the body of the robot. People should take note and walk away and go, huh, maybe I should think about what I'm doing, about where I'm putting my batteries. Yeah. Just a thought. Fusion. Maybe you might want to think about that.
I mean, I'm still hung up on the fact that you just said slag. So
I use the word slag as in what happens when you melt metal, but I love it in the British context too. So
Dale and I are just quietly tittering away here. we're adults, honest. I mean, yeah.
Honest, right. If you could only see with video, I've got two fingers that I'm flinging at you right now because I think I'm a British bowman or something.
Yes, so Pete was very disappointed to learn that this was audio only because he wanted to gesticulate wildly at you all whilst he was talking, and I just wanted an opportunity to say gesticulate. In all honesty, it's a fantastic word. Sorry. Anyway, fights. Right. So frogs and dragons. Right. So I have to admit, I had Black Dragon down to win this anyway. But once it was on fire, I was like, Ribbot's very durable, so no, maybe the dragon's gonna fall. But no, the dragon stayed on fire the whole time and won. Dragon, it was amazing.
Black Dragon, like it was as if the fire didn't exist. Yes, they lost their weapon, but they fought in a way that just showed, no, we're gonna keep control of this whole fight, no matter what. We lost our weapon, and we're gonna do everything it takes to maintain. And they did. Like that was just a brilliant fight. I loved watching that.
It was an utter slugfest, and I enjoyed every minute of that one. Dale, who is next on the roster?
Well, we're going to have to see some movement, preferably before the count out. We got Shatter versus Endgame.
Pete, was it devil's luck that they moved a mere nanosecond after the count out?
Yeah, I would have to sort of go back and really watch just that one little moment, but that I wouldn't call it controlled movement. I think it was twitching and be able to get a little bit of showing of, oh, look, my robot can kind of flail about, but I don't think it would have changed the outcome anyway. Right, okay. That was sort of a done fight. So.
Yeah. The plastic gun Shatter holds up quite nicely to Endgame. Yeah, well, half of it did.
It certainly does. I mean, that's some really thick UHMW, and it took a beating. And if you look close, you can see the damage all over the side of Shatter. And usually you can't, because one of the great things that Shatter does by using the black UHMW is most of the hits don't visibly show up very well on the shape of the bot. So you don't really see how deep the cuts really were. But the cuts were so massive that it was really obvious that the shape had changed on Shatter, that it was visibly damaged all the way from the outside.
It leaves spinner scars, doesn't it, on that kind of plastic?
One of the key hits that happened in that is Shatter got sort of up on end, and its underbelly was exposed, and you see the weapon of Endgame hit one of the Meccano wheels, and boom, that was it. Like that was one of the key moments, I think, that sort of reduced Shatter's sort of drivability, was he took a huge hit to one of those Omni wheels.
And then it shat itself.
Well, I wouldn't say shat.
we love cracking that one on this. Get it cracking. Oh, sorry.
Shattered itself. Yeah, there is no cracking in this final, so.
But I would say that Shatter needs to rename itself to Scatter after all that mess.
Oh.
I bet the arena cleaners love it when Shatter enters the arena with a spinner. It's like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that he stopped putting on the little stick-on pieces of mirror, that were just everywhere after each fight. Like one good hammer swing and he would blow off all his own little crystals. It was like, okay, I have to solve this, because it looked problematic, but he needs to be able to come up with a really good sort of sticker plan that holds it to his UHMW, but that's going to be tough.
We do love shiny Shatter, but we need a more convenient shiny Shatter.
Yeah, it looks so good on camera. It's just amazing with all the lights going off. It's a giant disco ball with a hammer attached.
It is, right? I mean, I can't not like that.
Should we have some ABBA playing while it's in the middle of the arena? I don't know. So,
Rick Astley, come on. Okay, Dale, who's next on the roster?
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask for your help for a sound effect on this one.
Oh, yeah.
That was a tantrum if anyone didn't understand.
Really?
I mean, Farouk didn't do it this season, so someone had to, Pete.
Right, I know. Throw myself down on the ground, flail about, kicking my arms and legs. Yes.
I mean, you might as well, because this was an absolute bracket buster of a fight.
It was.
I don't think too many people had Tantrum down for winning this one, and I fully admit I was one of them.
I mean, one of the things that was... Both of these robots require their opponent to be in a very set spot for their weapon to do maximum damage. So Tantrum obviously needs somebody on top of them or pretty high up the wedge for the punch to work. Sawblaze needs the other robot within their forks, within the scoop, for their saw to be able to come down on top of them. Tantrum never gave Sawblaze the opportunity to be in Sawblaze's bucket.
They were winning the fork off.
Yeah, that was the key. So that you got to give Aaron huge props for being able to pull this one off the way he did, and it's a testament to he practiced driving. I'm sure he has 100 hours on Tantrum outside of the arena of practicing, and it showed. It was an amazing thing to witness Aaron come as far as he did in this season.
I said, actually, I think he's been a very underrated driver this season, actually, because a lot, on the show, a lot of the time it gets paid attention to people like Will or Jamieson, and yeah, I think Aaron should definitely be mentioned next year for the driving, because this season in particular he's really shown.
Yes, completely. I mean, it's funny because somewhere else I think within the Shuntcast for the Facebook page, one of the questions was, what was the most underrated bot? And I think Tantrum came in my mind, as one of the most underrated, sort of not thinking it was going to go as far as it was. And look where it ended up. And that was not just a testament to how brick-like Tantrum is and how solid of a bot and really reliable and durable, but how much Aaron practiced in driving.
It definitely showed. Dale, who's up next?
Wait
for it.
Wait for it. Wait.
For a good flip?
That's the one.
Hey.
I reverted Whiplash.
This was another one of my favourite fights of the night, I think. Patience is a virtue. They were just both of them. It was tantalising. They're both waiting for the perfect hit, and you spent so much of this fight it could go either way at most of it. You spend most of it just not knowing where it was going to go, because both just executed their patient strategies very well.
Right. This was a fight that I've been saying this whole season that I think Matt is quite possibly the best driver right now with his robot.
I don't want to fight him.
He showed his ability to do things and to adapt and to be ready. Hydra never got a real Hydra flip out of him. I mean, he made him sort of go up and over. He put Whiplash on his back, but we didn't have a launch.
No.
Hydra never got lined up to get a good launch. And that's because Matt is, what I say is, Matt puts Whiplash always where the opponent doesn't want Whiplash. He's always where you don't want him to fight, because he's ready. He's constantly moving that bot around and keeping it, whether it's weapon focused forward or whether it's the flipper at the right spot, or even when he gets turned around, because of the weapon is on an arm, he makes backswings that hit his opponent from behind. And it's just amazing to watch. And there's that one moment where he puts Hydra up against I think it was almost to the wall of the driver's platform. just sort of Hydra's up on edge, and it was like nobody had seen that before. Like, that never happened. Hydra always stayed low and stuck to the ground, and nope. Here was Matt picking it up and sticking it to the side of the wall, and that was amazing driving.
It was. I mean, for me, the one that did it was they schooled Valkyrie the first time they fought them, and then to go and then school them even harder the second time was just like, wow. Okay, yeah, I don't want to fight Whiplash, thanks.
Yeah, Whiplash. I mean, Matt kept sticking the fork or the sort of the spade of Whiplash right in between Valkyrie's sort of cutouts of the lightning for the weapon, right? All these big lightning areas to lighten, Dr. Teeth or whichever one it was, and he just would get the weapon right in there and stop Valkyrie from being able to spin, and then just tow her around. Right? Let me just go drag you around the arena and throw you against the wall. I mean, it was, like you said, I schooled you once, I'll be going to school you again.
It was fantastic. Dale, what's the next one?
Next one is the Battle of the Oranges, Tantrum versus Endgame.
How did you fancy Tantrum's chances for defeating Endgame following its defeat of Sawblaze?
I thought it was going to have a better chance, but knowing how the weapon was, I mean, the thing that I was expecting was Aaron to be able to get advantage of Endgame's gyroscopic precession. So when they have that weapon spun up super fast, one of the things that happens is they go to make a turn, and you'll see a corner of Endgame lift up. I mean, it happens to Minotaur, it happens to Copperhead. Like, this is for super high RPM weapons. You'll witness this kind of lifting of the bot off of the ground, and good drivers can take advantage of that. They didn't give that many options for Aaron to take advantage of. They had sort of already been learning from earlier mistakes, and were like, no, we got to keep it down. And of course, in the final, it really pays off. But they also added those, what looked like just super flimsy little like crab meat forks at the end. But they were enough to be able to keep Tantrum at bay. It was, Endgame really had this season was just so impressive, not just in the arena, but the decisions they made in the pits before going into the arena, how they approached each fight. And they were incredibly logical about it. And they were very, like, they had spent hours watching footage of everybody else's fights. So they kind of had a better understanding. Like, when they took out Tombstone in the very beginning, that was because they watched a ton of Tombstone fights. Yes, there was some luck for them. They were at the exact right spot when Tombstone was sort of turned to them that allowed them to get that good hit. But still, like, they were just paying attention.
They really were. I think, do you know what? Because of the controversies that happened since the Tombstone fight, and I said this in an earlier episode, I think that people sort of almost forgot about Endgame for a bit, because there was the beta controversy, and then there was the bike crack controversy, and I think everybody
Endgame
sort of forgot about Endgame, and then it had another fight, and you were like, oh shit, son, Endgame's on form.
Well, they lost. God, who was it?
Bloodsport, I think it was.
That was it. You're right. That's correct. And so that's what led to people not paying attention to Endgame, like you said, Sarah. Sort of this, oh, well, maybe there's no big deal. And then all of a sudden after that, they just rocket forward. Like, they're just taking it over. It was like, oh my God, they're in the top 32. Oh my God, they're in the 16. They're now in the 8. Like, it just kept getting better and better.
All right, Dale, who's next?
Well, I'm going to have to ask you a little question here. What do you call an upside-down dragon?
I don't know, Dale. What do you call an upside-down dragon?
Whiplash's opponent.
Oh, go! Jill, you'll be here all week. Please.
Go mono duck yourself, Dale.
Yeah.
I must admit, I couldn't have chosen. If somebody had asked me to put money on this fight, it would have been a very, very uneasy Whiplash, I think.
And yet it ended up being an incredibly easy whiplash, wasn't
I
it?
know.
I mean, the fact that they had Black Dragon vertical against the wall, could have just walked away and taken the
Yes.
win. And yet they still went, let me just tap you back down because I've got this fight. I mean, not that that's not sort of how Matt thinks. He doesn't have an ego about it. Like Matt is his ego is so in check and so small. And yet, like, he could have just taken that win. And he said, I'm confident enough to know that I'm probably still going to get it. So let me just knock it back down. Like, whoa.
At least that doesn't always work out well for them. Hypershock springs to mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I must going into this fight. I was just I don't, because is it Gabriel, the team captain of Black Dragon? He's such a good driver, and
Gabriel or Zhao?
is it?
It might have been, this season. Maybe it's Gabriel. I know because they choose different captains and different teammates for each season. I think it might have been Gabriel this season. You may be correct, but the internet could correct this if we wanted to.
They can correct us, but whoever was on the sticks from Black Dragon was absolutely on form this year.
Yeah.
And I must admit that even though Matt has just been spectacular, I thought, but that is a very scary Brazilian opponent, to be fair. And a very well-driven one, for that matter.
Yeah. And also, again, in the pits, they were on form. They did come with one of the largest teams that was fielded this year for the COVID year. And everybody had a job to do. That as soon as that robot got back from a fight, like it was stripped down, and there was one person that handled dealing with the weapon. There's one person that dealt with, making sure that the program was right in the speed controllers. Somebody who did batteries. Somebody who did chassis. Like everybody did their job, like an F1 pit crew kind of thing. It was amazing.
It was. We have to give kudos to their massive team for that. That's what I need. I need a massive team, but the flight stipend doesn't cover it.
No. And they came, and I think they had to fly into Mexico first and quarantine
I heard about that
for like 2 weeks before they were able to come into America. Like it was insane how just to get them here. What a nutty thing it was during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what stopped most of the international teams from coming, was because we couldn't afford the additional 4 weeks off work for the quarantine either side.
Totally.
Oh, I clenched in this fight, I have to admit. This fight did cause me a clench. The listeners wanted to know that. So Dale, who's the final?
Oh, here we go. Yes.
Oh, here we go. Oh dear.
Yes, it's Endgame versus Whiplash.
It's the final spin down. I'm sorry. I've got puns too, P. You're in trouble.
Really? You, Sarah, have puns and jokes?
I know.
I thought you were the most serious person ever.
Just who'd have thunk? Whiplash got yeeted. That's now a technical term.
Yes. The key moment during that fight is this. There's a moment where Whiplash is like head to head with the weapon of Endgame, and they get lifted up and their underbelly is exposed, and Endgame's weapon just goes in the channel in between the two drive pods of Whiplash where the weapons, and it just eviscerated the weapon motors and all of the weapon system for Whiplash in that one moment. And that was the key. Like that, once that happened, like he was like, okay, I could drive a box around, but that's all I got. And Endgame could still hit, right? So it was rough. And then, of course, to have Endgame just sort of ceremoniously boot Whiplash out of the arena right in front of me was like, whoa.
It was the subsequent Endgame team is screaming, and Matt's just like, yep, fair. Out of the arena. That's a fair win.
That's a complete fair win, yeah. That was a brilliant way to end the season with a champion. Like, that was a great move.
And our first international champion, no less.
I know. That is like super exciting. Just the idea of having it move from America to someplace else. It's kind of like the America's Cup, having that cup be able to go to Australia or New Zealand or wherever the team is. What a great thing for the world. Like, we only benefit by having more people around the world excited by this sport by having an international winner. I mean, that was a great thing. Not that I wouldn't have also just leapt out of my seat and jumped up and down to see Matt win. I would have been just as excited. But either way it went, the fans win and the show wins.
I must admit, in my heart, I wanted Whiplash. I think
I did too.
But that's not to say I don't begrudge Endgame the win at all. Yeah. That they fully deserved it. But I must admit, I was rooting for Whiplash quietly.
I mean, I've known Matt and I've known his parents for since 2001, probably. You know, I've known them when they were little teeny kids.
Yeah.
And it's so wonderful to sort of see them where they are. And also to witness their evolution of showing up with Splatter back in the ABC days and it just not really being a great bot to where they are now with Whiplash and how solid Whiplash is and how well built and durable. It takes a beating and they just keep putting it back out there and making it go. And I'm impressed.
And I love how they've done sort of bot stuff outside of BattleBots. Like they've been on CSI or something, stuff like that. They've been in adverts. It's like,
yeah, they've. It's funny because like Jeff, I've actually passed a few film jobs onto him that I couldn't do because I usually used to get called for, hey, can you build a robot for this television show? And there was times when I didn't have enough hours in the day to be able to do that, and I've had had Jeff take over on some of those jobs.
Awesome. Well, that just leaves us with one last fight, which I shall describe using Shunt posting commentary. It is Endgame versus Rusty. And Rusty shoots out of the starting square with fart-powered propulsion from eating all the popcorn. Get it? And Endgame is extremely confused and doesn't know what's happened. It waits for a good hit, but Rusty says, "Suck it, Jack. It's up to speed now, boys, and not even Eric can stand in its way. Jackhammers are terrifying, and Endgame should fear Rusty's." Rusty then does an absolutely disgusting fart, which makes Endgame's batteries melt, forcing Jack Barker to tell the arena cleaners, "Sorry about your flaw." Rusty then pulls an angry Daniel Freitas face before drilling Endgame into submission, stealing the giant nut from it and leaving the judges with no comment. Did you enjoy that fight, Pete?
I'm speechless. I want that fight, like on every episode. Where's that fight? I need that fight. I can visually see that fight happening because that's the kind of person I am, very visual. So the only thing I think was missing was the fact that when Rusty came and made his first attack, the first bit of the pile driving drill went right into Endgame's belts and stopped Endgame's weapon off the bat. First thing.
That's true. Do you know what would come close to being as amazing as that? Nelly versus Rusty.
Oh, I could have wanted to see that.
Oh, yeah. The fans. Wonderful. Oh my god! How many times does it come up on the fan groups? Every time there's a Dream Fights thread, it's on a Dream Fights thread like multiple times now. And I need this to happen. I need to fight Rusty, Pete.
Is it not amazing at like Dave's story? Just the story arc of Rusty itself, of like how it got there and how Dave sort of was just like, yeah. Greg said, "We have a space, come on out." And Dave drove on out by himself with all his stuff, and he had no pit crew. People helped him. There was, Curtis from Gamma 9 was over helping him, and a bunch of other people gave him a lot of assistance. But he just sort of like shouldered it all himself, and he just went out there. And the other thing that blew my mind is Rusty survived for 3 minutes. Rusty kept going.
Oh, Rusty's amazing. Pete, I need to fight Rusty. I implore you. And the fans implore you. I need to fight Rusty.
I have an ear of somebody that may be able to make that happen, but that doesn't mean I can guarantee any of those things.
I know,
I
but
can make suggestions.
you can sarcastically tell the listeners that well, I guarantee that fight. And, yeah, so I tell you what. In other news, we'll talk about the awards because we like an award, and there was lots of wholesome things. And speaking of Rusty got the Rookie Award, and I'm very happy you gave the Rookie Award to Rusty. I have to say.
So we've never had a Rookie Award before. This was purely Greg, Trey, and I all talking about, oh my God, we have to do something for Dave. He was too amazing of a person. He was so good on camera. Like, look at all the stuff he brought to us for a show. So what can we do? And we actually had runners that ran out and like went to, Long Beach like shipyards to see if they could find old rusty like bolts and nuts there. Like we tried to, it was on a weekend, so it made it difficult. We were trying to find surplus yards and anything, and somebody finally was able to go, okay, I found this bolt and this nut, and somebody else welded a little thing, and we made this quick award just because Dave was too much fun, and we knew, like after what we all became Rusty fans, that we knew the internet and the world was going to become a Rusty fan. So if we didn't celebrate him in some way and show that we recognize what he brought, that how important it was for us to have somebody like that's why we made the award. I don't know if next year there will be another Rookie Award. I mean, this was kind of a one-off thing, but who knows? Maybe there will be another nut bolt.
I think it should be. It's wholesome and it's lovely.
It was, yes. But, this was a very rusty nut that we got. So, like, everything was sort of rusty themed. I don't know what would happen going forward, but we'll see. We'll have that discussion. We'll see how the budget can be.
Okay, Founders Award. Very well deserved for Scorpius. They do so much outside the bot community, including doing kids' parties.
The amount of outreach that they do, like it was a no-brainer for us because they do so much work that we were just like, okay, we've got to give it to them. And they also got brutalized by COVID. Like it destroyed their business in the process. They had such a difficult time during COVID, and just the way everything went, they were struggling. And yet still showing up with a robot to compete. So, yeah. That was sort of why Trey and Greg looked at them and went, I think we have to give it to them. So.
Oh, definitely. I think they're thoroughly deserving of that one. The most destructive has caused some debate on the internet. I'm quite happy with choosing Valkyrie personally, but I would have also been happy with Uppercut because what a monster that was this season.
Yeah. Do you remember very beginning when Uppercut put one of Gemini, like, I think the full length of the BattleBots?
One went pop and the other went bang, as the song goes.
That was 125 pounds as opposed to 250 pounds flying, but they still launched it the full length of the BattleBox. It was pretty impressive. But I was super happy with the idea that Valkyrie got most destructive. Watching it do what I deem as spark wheelies, when it sits there up on end and the bottom half of the weapon is scraping the ground and it's just spraying, steel from the arena floor all over the place as it sort of wheelies around. I love it. Oh, and its fight against Rotator was just amazing. Probably there was another question that was in the Facebook group. That was probably my favorite fight of the whole thing, was Rotator Valkyrie, because of the sparks. There were so many.
It was. I'm torn between that one, but also because of my inner child, the ridiculousness that was Huge versus Mammoth.
Yes.
Because, I mean, just what a spectacle.
The interpretive dance that Huge and Mammoth was, reflected of Moment Shots, bringing back this. It was like unbelievable to watch the two chaos gods of robotic combat there fighting each other within the box. Was amazing.
I've got an idea. right? If you don't do a Rookie Awards next year, have a BattleBots Got Talent Award instead for fights like that. Be amazing.
Yes, it was. That was a brilliant fight. To watch Mammoth clear itself in height and do a flip in the air was like, what the hell? Did somebody turn off gravity in the box, please? What's going on?
When mammoths are around, yes, all logic goes out the window.
Yes, and then it's not just Mammoth and Huge. Like,
And Huge is the smaller robot. It's amazing. Just
doesn't just two negatives make a positive, right? So
right, must be. Right, so the Best Design Award was renamed to the Grant E. Mahara Best
Yes.
Design Award, and it went to the beauty that is Chomp. I mean, I can't argue with that either.
No, and what's a shame is it's hard to really see the depth inside of what's going on with Chomp and how beautiful the leg mechanisms are and just everything. The engineering is on a level that is so far beyond. Like you got to remember, I work in the same building with Yasha and Zoe. I can look at Chomp being made as it was sitting 30 feet away from me, and it was exquisite to watch it happening and coming to shape, and then again to watch it out there and to see it work and to know all the engineering that went into it and the machining that went into it. I'm so happy that award went to them. And for BattleBots to have renamed the award in Grant's honor was just, it was the right thing to do.
Absolutely, yeah, that's the best way to describe it. I didn't know loads about him, being British, because he's obviously much bigger on the American scene. I knew him from Mythbusters before I knew he had anything to do with BattleBots. But then in the wake of his death, I learned just how important he was to the BattleBots community. Because, of course, everybody was posting stories and pictures and tributes and stuff. And so, yeah, it sort of almost became a no-brainer that one of the awards would get renamed after him, and the Best Design Award just makes absolute sense.
Right. I mean, I've known him for a long time and have been friends with him. And it was such a sudden and such a harsh death to deal with. Knowing who he was and how open he was and how helpful he was to so many people and how influential he was. And it was to have him just taken out, I mean, it had really threw me for a loop. I mean, to the point that I was questioning going back and doing BattleBots. Like, I mean, because of COVID, and I had been in such a deep funk because of Grant's death, just a month prior, was just eating me. And I think going back and doing the show was obviously the best thing I could have done. And I hope it shows.
It does. We love the Book Whisperer.
Well, that's good, because I would
Kleenex
be, I would really be saddened or be witnessing lots and lots of memes on Shunt posting if I was a shithead. So
Right. So we're gonna give you another award to choose, and it's your choice. It's the Good Hit of the Night award, which we give for every episode. We have 2 nominations. It is the yeeting of Whiplash, of course, at the hands of Endgame, and also the weapon collision between Ribbot and Black Dragon, which caused the fire. If you have any other suggestions, of course, we're more than happy to hear them. But who would you like to give the John Reed Good Hit of the Night award to?
I would say the best hit out of sort of that night was probably Endgame eviscerating Whiplash in that one moment when the underbelly. Like, that was one of the most crucial and defining hits. Whereas like Ribbot and Black Dragon, yes, both weapons sort of went out, but it didn't define the fight. The fight was defined by the driving after that point and the aggressiveness of the driving. So to classify it as a hit, I would say that the one that really made the difference was Endgame Whiplash when it caught the underside of Whiplash.
Definitely. Well, there we go. Congratulations, Endgame. You not only win the Giant Nut, you win the John Reed Good Hit of the Night award
Woohoo!
as well. Woohoo! Now, Pete, you know that I told you I had a little surprise for you.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's time for your surprise.
You know how hard it is to send cake from England to here and have it still be fresh? Like, come on.
Pete can't hear this, right? Because he doesn't know that I'm replacing him as Bot Whisperer yet.
You don't whisper very much. Like, you're definitely not a whisperer, if I remember right.
Wait, I confused whisper with asshole. Sorry.
Oh, well, that's a different kind of whisper. That's usually just called a fart.
Can I use you as a reference for this one?
Of course you can. Of course you can.
Hey, Pete.
I'll be the bot bellower.
Oh, I'm glad you could join.
How you doing, man?
You know, I'm having a pretty good day. And now that you've joined, it's even gotten better.
That's good. Kara's here, too. She wanted to say hi to you.
Oh, that's very nice. Good to hear you, too.
So, for this season of BattleBots, we've been doing a segment on the show with Al called the Builders Playlist, where he judges the music of the fans and other builders. Any he deems that he likes, they go on the Builders Playlist, which we will be publishing after the season ends, which is now. We'll be doing that soon. Woohoo! And if he doesn't like them, then they don't go in, basically. And he knew you were coming on this week, and he demanded to be allowed to come on and troll you. So I said, okay, let's do the Builders Playlist with Pete's music, which is why I asked you to tell me some of your favourite songs. So Al's going to judge your songs.
Perfect. I want to be judged by Al.
well, that's good, because that's what's happening. So first up from Pete's collection, we have Mean Streets by Van Halen.
This is home. This is Mean Streets. This is home. The only one I know. And we don't.
What do you think of Mean Streets?
Hey, I love the old Van Halen. Who doesn't? David Lee Roth. I mean, he's one of the best vocalists ever, and I'm a stickler for vocals. I can't say that I'm a fan of the newer Van Halen when David Lee Roth left. But yeah, I mean, Van Halen's always great. Good hard rock. I don't know if they're metal, but that doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, Eddie, he was one of the best, if not the best. So hats off.
In the guitar solo within Mean Streets, there's this moment, if you listen to it carefully, that he makes his guitar sound exactly like Godzilla when he screams. That, to me, is one of the reasons why I love this song. Because I'm a big fan of Godzilla, and I'm a big fan of Van Halen.
I have a random achievement that involves Van Halen. Admittedly, not this song, because Hot for Teacher is on one of the Guitar Heroes, and I'm weirdly good at Guitar Hero, and I once got Hot for Teacher on Expert, note perfect.
Nice. Well done.
There's useless piece of information. I put it on my CV, honestly. Resume to the Americans. Sorry.
That's almost as big an accomplishment as being on BattleBots.
Exactly.
It's so true. So Al, will it make the Builders Playlist, or is it not?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any Van Halen that I wouldn't put on the list.
Awesome. Right. Rare will be listening to this at some point later, so I shall instruct her. It will be added to the Builders Playlist. Dale, what's the next one?
The next one is, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Heil?
Yeah, that's the one.
From Rammstein.
Rammstein, that's the one.
So next up
Heil.
is Wademan's Heil by Rammstein.
Ich fege mir den Bass vom Horn und gebe ein gestrichenes Korn. Auf dem Lande, auf dem Meer lauert das Verderben. Die Kreatur muss sterben.
Al, do you like Rammstein? I like Rammstein.
I'm not a huge fan, honestly. It's a little bit too repetitive for me. I did like this song. It's pretty heavy. It's kind of heavier than I remember a lot of their stuff being. But yeah, I mean, when I tell people I'm in the German metal, what's the first thing that I hear? Oh, Rammstein, you know. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. You don't know anything, but that's okay. No, I did like this song. I mean, it's got a good heavy riff, and the vocals, no idea what they're saying, but they sound good.
Du Hast is my favorite song. I love that song.
Okay. Kara's shaking her head, but I don't know. She probably knows more Rammstein than me, which isn't hard because I don't really know any.
I've seen Rammstein live twice. One a long time ago, and I consider it one of the top 3 concerts I've ever been to. Was one of the Rammstein shows. So amazing.
Do they do anything like different, or what makes it good?
Fire! Oh my god!
Yeah, the way that they kind of use, like, when you go, if you were to look at like a Kiss show and they use a bunch of fireworks, right? It's just sort of like, well, here's a bunch of fireworks. Right. Rammstein takes it to this level of art that achieves this. It just goes someplace else with the mixture of fire and the explosions, and they're just
his mechanical stuff as well, like the mechanical wings he had, like they're just insane.
Or he used to have this trench coat that was made of like chainmail, and he'd come out and stand, and then he would just catch fire. He would just ignite in this chainmail suit.
Al needs to go and watch more Rammstein videos.
This one's going out to Black Dragon. I'm on fire.
Hey!
So it sounds like I should go see him if they come around, huh?
Oh,
you
definitely.
should, if you can. They are just exquisite. They are so much fun.
You know, and it's funny. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say the crowd gets so into it. Like, it's just unbelievable to watch and be a part of.
That reminds me of a Gwar. I'm sure you're familiar with Gwar.
Yes.
Gwar is it's funny. It's like I don't really listen to Gwar regularly. I do have a couple CDs, but I will go to every show that comes around for the same reason. Yes. It's such a spectacle.
Yes.
And yes. So you've seen it.
I've never made it to a Gwar show, but I've definitely seen footage of them, and like I know who they are, and I would say that Rammstein is a more refined version of Gwar in a way.
I will look into that. I will check that out if they come around.
Right. So, Al, is it going to go in the Builders playlist or not?
Yeah, I think it works. It's good for. I may not listen to it driving to work, but I think it's good for the shop. I would definitely have it in the background.
Yay! I like Rammstein in the Builders playlist. And lastly, Pete may regret posting this on Facebook and may also regret telling Behind the Bots about it. But we have Pete's BattleBots producers band Vulcan Death Grip with their cover of Girl You Want by Devo.
Just girl you want. Just girl you want.
Good. I'm glad you actually have it.
Al, do you like Pete's band?
Where do I begin? Talk about a spectacle. This was definitely one. The production values are extremely high. I recommend everyone check it out on Peter's Facebook page. Such great spectacle. Peter as the evil Captain Kirk on vocals, and our own Greg Munson on guitar.
Oh my God, Spot Greg made me die. I'm not even.
And Mark Satrakian as a red shirt in the back playing keyboards, and Paul Rivera on keyboards as a old school Klingon, and Trey in the blue shirt on backup vocals. I mean, this was a powerhouse.
It was an emotional experience.
That's Cameron Noble. All of us grew up and went to school together, except for Trey didn't go to school with us because Trey was Greg's cousin and he lived down in LA and we all lived in the Bay Area. But all of that group all went to high school together. We were all sort of like bonded and stayed friends. Now, Mark, Paul, and myself were the original members of Team Sinister. So if you remember seeing any photos of the Master, there's usually this one big guy next to the Master. That's Paul. He was the Klingon.
He lost like a person.
He definitely, he did.
That's why I didn't recognize him at all. Wow. Okay. So I remember them from Robot Wars. So wow.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Cool.
Right. So the big question, Al, are you going to put Pete's band in the Builders playlist? Or are you going to break his heart?
Kara just threatened me to say if I don't, but how could you not? I mean, it's a great song. I mean, it's a great version, and Pete does a great job on vocals. Honestly, not even bullshitting.
Thank you.
Aww.
I am, just so everybody understands, I am not a singer. Like everybody I grew up with were musicians. I am not a musician whatsoever. But am I a showman? Yeah, I guess so.
Same. I am not a singer, but I will. If I've got to be a showman, I will. Right, Al. Thank you for joining us for an extra special Builders playlist, courtesy of Pete's music taste and his band.
Thanks for letting me pop in, and good talking to you, Pete. And we will see you soon.
Yes, I hope so. Sarah, just so you know, like Al and I share completely opposite ends of the political spectrum.
Same.
We've never had a chance to fight each other in the arena, but I don't know how long we've been friends. And I just like watching Al work on Blacksmith is such a treat because of the work ethic that I get to witness by Blacksmith just warms my heart like you wouldn't believe. That team shows up at 6 a.m., coffee in hand, ready to go. And I love watching that. And I love watching Blacksmith fight. That's why every time everybody says, who would Ronan team up with? Blacksmith. Like, what else? Come on, guys. Like, who else would I want to fight with?
I'm in. Make it happen.
Yes, let's make it happen.
Hail Hydra.
And just one tidbit, you say, how long have we been friends? When I bought my second, what the hell was it? I was getting ready for BattleBots in 2000, and I bought the Futaba radio, the helicopter radio.
Yeah.
Back in the days when you had it changed over to ground frequency.
Right.
I couldn't figure out the mixing for tank steering and or inverted operation, one of the two. And I emailed Peter out of the blue, he didn't really know who I was. And he was totally helpful with that. And we kind of been friends ever since.
Aww.
There you go.
You didn't
look at that,
him
Sarah. You actually get a nice story out of us.
Aww.
We've ruined everything.
I know.
Aww.
Let's get back to Shud posting. Fuck everything.
We like to have fun here, Pete. We're not miserable bastards.
Oh, but I can be. Oh, sorry.
Oh, darling, talk to me after the show. We'll go dark. But I don't like to traumatize the children. Happy to traumatize you, though. Al, thank you so much for joining us. Hail Hydra. Catch you later.
Thanks, Al.
It's Paul, of course.
Taylor
right,
Paul.
Shunt posters. As Pete got to choose all of this week's submissions for the Builders playlist, we will be doing a special Builders playlist in the near future where we will get lots of extra songs on to make up for it this week. We'll be doing a new thread for this soon, so keep your eye out for the new thread and ignore the old one, basically. And Pete, that brings us on to the fan questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, you can't see. My hand is covering my mouth. Uh-oh. Yes.
Okay. You're gesticulating towards your mouth. I see. I see. Right, first up, Elliot Goddard asks, what do you whisper when you whisper to the bots?
Well, it's usually in binary. So it doesn't translate very well to audio. Like, it's just it sounds like an old US Robotics 5600 modem going off. It's hard for most people to understand. And the biggest problem is they don't whisper back to me. Many times they shout at me because they're angry, because they're getting the shit beat out of them in the arena, and they don't have a choice. Some like it. Tombstone, he really likes to get in there and beat things and eat things.
Well, he does.
But others are sort of like, why did you do that to me?
Poor
So yes, they
Slapbox.
do whisper back.
Okay. Dale, what's the next question?
Owain Ratcliffe wants to know if Ronin still exists.
Ronin does exist. It is an empty shell of itself. There is no electronics, no batteries. It is overweight because it was a super heavyweight, but it is now basically a work of art. It just sits on its rolling cart and looks
Aw.
pretty, but it is non-drivable. And
Mm.
I don't think I would want to ever invest in the amount of money it would take to make it drivable at this point in my life. So I leave it at what it is.
F in the chat for Ronin.
Ah,
Daniel Urban asks, what was your biggest oh shit moment you experienced from your seat this season? Sawblaze exploding has got to be up there.
Sawblaze exploding was huge. Same with and don't negate Malice versus Axe Backwards. That was another explosion too. That was pretty epic. But I think actually one of the ones that sort of just because it kind of opened the show in a way was Tombstone Endgame, and the Tombstone booted out of the arena and just sort of like a slice of toast landing in between the screws in the wall. It just was was so
toast.
Whoa, I can't believe we just saw that happen kind of moment. The fires we expect, right? But this was just that to me was one of those unexpected moments that really sort of shocked me.
I'm glad the phrase tombstone toast now exists.
There you go.
I'm immeasurably delighted by this.
Well, that's been what every time I sort of talk about robots getting stuck behind the screws or behind the rail, I call it they get toasted. They're a slice of toast, because it usually is this beautiful vertical slotting of the robot right into that space.
It's true.
I prefer to think of it as being ducked, because Duck did it last season.
Yes.
But next question, Tom Brisbane would like to know, if you ever revived Ronin, what modifications would you give it to modernize it?
It would have to be a complete new redesign. And something else I've said many times is Jerome Miles outdid Ronin with Red Devil better than I ever could. Like, Red Devil was what I always wanted Ronin to be. And if I were to revitalize Ronin, it would probably be, maybe I would go with treads again. I always loved the treads, and it's one of the reasons why Rusty, so touched my heart, is because there were treads hidden underneath there. I would maybe still have tread pods, but I might, for weapon, not go with my sort of, horizontal spinning disc that I had at the season 5, but I might go with sort of a shell spinner, or not a shell like Gigabyte, but more like Son of Waiachi, all the way over the treads. So you can see the treads in there doing their thing, but have this framework of a big spinner. That's
like
one thing I thought of.
The Hexbug toy.
Is that what a Hexbug toy looks like? Do they
there
do
is
that?
one of them, but yeah, the big spinner.
Stole my idea!
Calm yourself. You're the bot whisperer. It's okay. I'm not going to rickroll you again. Don't worry. Chris Walmsley would like to know, other than the jaw-dropping beauty that is Chomp, what other bots stood out this year?
So things like, durability stands out for me. So Whiplash, of course, was one of those super durable bots. Tantrum, of course, was an amazingly durable bot to watch.
Rotator.
Rotator.
It was amazing.
Sure. Yes. And actually, if we were to give a rookie of the year to and not as a joke like we did kind of with Rusty, because Rusty was just more of a warm-hearted thing, but somebody that really sort of showed up with a thing, Jackbot. Like, glitter for the win, right?
Budget bots for the win. Hell yeah. This gives Nelly a chance, right?
Yeah, I mean, they did a great job, and that was a bot that super impressed me. At first, I was like, "Ooh, what's this? This sort of looks like a death roll, and hopefully it'll survive." They didn't really have a lot of budget, and then they get in there and they just kick butt, and it was great. Or actually, kick bot. Sorry.
Of course.
Greg Sova asks, what is the most underrated bot design which you'd like to see more of in the future?
For me, I want to see more designs in every direction. Like I've always been the one that preaches, adaptivity. Like one of my quotes going from all the way back to Robot Wars was robot Darwinism, adapt or be scrapped. Right. I love seeing greater stretches of variation out of the niche. To see somebody sort of trying to evolve a different direction to bring something else to the table. And I think, Valkyrie is a great example of that with their sort of two-wheel undercutter. I mean, yeah, we could go back to Robot War or to BattleBots back on the Comedy Central days, and there was I think it was Mechavore was one of the earlier undercutters, but it had four wheels. But her design, Valkyrie's shape, was so brilliant to sort of say, we're just going to start with a big disc, and then let's build a robot atop and around that. That's what I really appreciate, those kind of evolutions. So I don't have like a specific bot in this thing. I mean, other than, of course, I love Chomp for pushing the envelope so far. But of sort of the bots that maybe made it up into the 16, we were kind of in some fairly similar shapes. And, I'd love to see more of that get broken. The meta be broken by other shapes.
This is a good one from Ty Daly. Which Comedy Central era robot would you like to see modernized and returned to BattleBots? He had another question, but you actually covered it earlier. He did also ask who gets your sort of most improved vote this season, but we sort of covered that earlier.
Yeah, Tantrum was definitely my most improved. What Comedy Central? We did have quite a few wedges, but Hazard, which was sort of ended up kind of Perfect Phoenix, is basically a Hazard, so we've kind of seen that be brought back in its own way. What other bot? I always liked Ziggo, was a great spinning walk. What was really cool for kind of was a middleweight was T-. That robot wanted with a two-wheel configuration yet a flipper, and it could really launch. I mean, that was, of course, the Inertia Labs team, Reason and Xander they just fielded some amazing robots, and that would probably do pretty well if sort of modernized.
I can think of a Robot Wars one I'd like to see for shits and giggles. Can you imagine a modern Psycho Sprout?
Psycho Sprout.
just it's not got a little remote control car inside it. It's got a whole remote control robot inside it these days. I have weird thoughts, Pete. I have weird thoughts.
It's okay. You can have some.
I suffer with those every week, so I'm used to it now.
Her weird thoughts. But wouldn't you actually, want to see maybe, I don't know, Tornado coming back?
I mean, we did. We got Hydra with the bike rack. It's a modern Tornado didn't do anything wrong kind of thing, isn't it? Well, it is on Shunt posting anyway. I mean, to be fair, Hydra's got a long way to go before it reaches the status of Tornado. I mean, because it's been 20 odd years since Tornado, right? And people still bang on about it, right? If people are still banging on about the bike rack for 20 years after it's happened, I'll give it that,
Right.
They can have a Tornado award, but they've got 20 years to go yet. It's only just happened.
what's funny is if you go back to, I think, our first season on Comedy Central with BattleBots, it was at Fort Mason. So it must have been our third event because I think we did Long Beach, a Vegas pay-per-view, and then I think we had our first show. Ronin, I had these bolt-on punji sticks, these giant spikes that flowered out from the sides of Ronin, basically to do exactly what Tornado was doing, was to keep robots from being able to get to my robot. I find it amusing that but his was much more brilliantly done to keep from ever falling in the pit. I love it.
This question was asked by two people, Liam and Samuel. They'd like to know which fight was your favourite this season.
Like I said, Rotator Valkyrie was definitely one of my all-time favorites. It was just.
Can we have an honourable mention again for Huge and Mammoth, though?
Oh yeah, of course. It
was just bravo.
It was art. it was robot art that we were witnessing. You know, it will never happen again. It was a once in a lifetime performance piece kind of thing.
It was just one of those just one-off, just absolutely ridiculous fight. I mean, the fight before this that sort of got the same reaction from me was Warhawk versus Free Shipping in season 3. I mean, how it was just flailing around. There was fire everywhere. I mean, how was it? Chris says it. We had fire. We had carnage. We had Gary Gin. It was spectacular. And I have not. And in season 4, I don't think I had a fight that made me just drop my jaw in. I was just torn between laughing and just gobsmacked. And then along came this season. And I've got Huge versus Mammoth, and it's up there now with my most utterly ridiculous and spectacular fights. It's up there.
Amazing. It's a joy to watch. Like, you know, could you imagine if we just let that just keep going? Like, if they could have just gone on
just until they both died,
right? So the robots just completely died. Yeah.
Amazing. Right. Final question. Adam Matthew Peckett asks, what are Chris and Kenny really like, and do you need any special skills to be the bot whisperer?
Well, let's see. We'll start with Chris and Kenny. First of all, Kenny eats all the breakfast burritos from the craft service. I mean, all of them. Like, they make probably a few hundred for the crew every day. Kenny eats them all before 9 a.m. They are great. Chris is such a professional. He doesn't. It's so amazing how he sort of, you know, really, what's the right word? He's very self-deprecating and takes the piss out of himself all the time.
Right, and us Brits love that because Americans don't do that too often either.
He is so good at his job. And I look over at him like, oh my God, if I could even just get 100th of what he's doing to come out as the bot whisperer, I'm doing a good job then. You know, because I think that he's just blows me away. And, you know, and Kenny is just a blast to have. Kenny, like the two of them, where they were when we started with ABC and walking into this with no knowledge of what they were witnessing, right? And having to sort of feed them a lot of stuff. I don't have to feed them as much anymore. Like, I may tell them little tidbits of something that just happened or I just learned, but they are so good at knowing what's happening, and they know all the builders and they know the backstories that then they can pull from. And like Chris's ability to grab stats from the past and say, well, you know, he's got a 1-2 record against this type of weapon. Like, I mean, he can pull that stuff out of his brain. And I don't know how, because I can't. Like, that stuff's just mud in my head. And it blows my mind to watch him work. So, special skills for the bot whisperer does it take? Well, let's see. It takes about, I don't know, 30 plus years of experience, maybe, to be able to beat around robot fighting to be able to get to this point.
Oh, so Al does have a good chance then.
Exactly. You know, I've been around robot fighting since the very beginning in Robot Wars 94 in San Francisco. And I've done many different events and multiple different robots over the years. and have been around all these people. And also, like, it doesn't hurt that I grew up and went to middle school with Greg. Greg Munson and I have been best friends.
Speaking of
since
Greg,
seventh
Greg's
grade.
just pinged in, just in the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time.
And he'd like to know, if you could have any pair of Star Wars underoos, what would they be?
Okay, so are we only going with Star Wars through Return of the Jedi, or are we including prequels? Are we talking Clone Wars thrown in? Like, where are we?
He hasn't specified this.
Okay, well, let me see. I'm gonna have to say I would probably want Mandalorian underoos, or I'd want K2SO. I think those would be the right underoos to wear.
Dale, do you have any idea what they're talking about?
I don't like Star Wars. I'm always against.
Okay, I'm hanging up now. I'm hanging up. Okay, we're ending this call right now.
I'm sorry, but I just, it's the one thing I can't get into. I don't understand it. I only like the Family Guy version, and
which is pretty damn good, by the way.
Pete, what we'll do is we'll tempt you to stay if we offer to play a little game. How does that sound?
Stay as long as you want. Okay,
so we'll play a game of beat defeat judges, which is a staple here on this show, and we've actually got two for you this time because you're going to be given a classic one and a modern one. So first up, for your classic matchup, you are fighting with Ronin, and your opponents are La Machine, Jinzu, and Dissector.
Okay. All right. So with Ginsu, I win. With La Machine, it's judge's decision, probably because I'm going to end up on my back and having to sort of self-right again. And it's a full defeat against Dissector. Like, I already lost to him. Like, it's Donald in his heyday. Donald at his ultimate prime. There's no beating that.
Awesome, right? And for your modern one, you need to choose your robot. So any BattleBot from this season.
Oh, which robot would I want from this season? Okay, let's go with Whiplash.
Okay, right. So your robot is Whiplash. Your opponents are Endgame, Tombstone, and Bite Force.
Okay. So
that's a text alert, Dale.
I think I win against Tombstone. If you remember the season prior, one of the things I witnessed, this is sort of what led me to become the Matthew fanboy that I've become watching him drive, is he was fighting against Son of Waiachi and lost one of the front armor panels, I think on the right side, went flying off due to being hit by Waiachi. And what he did, which you can actually witness, is he justifies the left side of Whiplash to the weapon of Sal. It is such an amazing adaptation under pressure that just blew my socks off to witness. And watching that tells me that he can beat Tombstone in the same way. He will be able to be forceful enough to know when to come in and get hit hard enough by Tombstone that Tombstone skitters around the floor, and then Matt will be on him and take advantage of it. So that's how I get that one win. I think in this second time going against Endgame, it's going to be a judge's decision, because Whiplash will not give that opportunity to let the weapon get underneath them to take out their own weapon system. And then the defeat was against Bite Force, because
Bite Force.
It's Bite Force.
It's Bite Force.
It's so tough to get. Like, Bite Force may not win fully by destruction all the time, but you don't get an edge of Bite Force to take advantage of. No. That's the hard part, is Paul does not give you a corner to grab. He's going to be the inverse of everything Matthew's going to do. And so that's going to be tough. So that would be what I think would end up being a defeat.
There we go.
That
Right.
That sounded like I actually knew what I was talking about, or that I'm just pulling it out of my ass.
We'll leave that up for the audience to decide.
Okay.
I couldn't possibly cast my unqualified judgment on such matters. Right, last up is the thing we love most on Shunt Posting. It is, of course, memes, and we're going to do 2 lots of memes this week. Normally, we do the memes from the previous week's episode, so that it allows us to have a week's worth of memes. And we're going to do that. We're going to do the meme of the week for episode 13, but we're also going to show Pete 3 of our favourite episode 14 memes so far. We know it hasn't been a week yet, but we're going to show him some of the ones so far, and Pete's going to decide the ones for episode 14. So right, episode 13 first. Right, one of the nominations we have is Tom Shanks' Everybody's Brackets. This is fine. So this is the dog surrounded by fire meme with "This is fine," and everyone's brackets are completely fucked as of last week.
Good one.
So I quite enjoyed that one.
Yes, and I like to offer Owain Ratcliffe's One Small Orange Boy, which is basically tantrum, or an orange with tantrum eyes, and just yeah.
I do love One Small Orange Boy, but everyone's brackets "This is fine" made me lol. So
yes, it was good.
I think should we give it to that one? I would like to give an honorary mention though. I'll try that again. I would like to give an honorary mention to "And Justice for Al" by Daniel Keith, which it wasn't specific to this episode, but
I saw that and was actually laughing out loud. I loved that. That was so encapsulated everything. Just the idea of it happened on so many levels. The Justice for Al.
You felt this meme.
Like all of the judges' decisions that have gone against Al, and there's blind Justice holding her scales, and Al's head. Like it was on so many levels that I really loved that one. So I would vote for that for myself, but.
But we'll give it a very honorary mention because it wasn't specific to episode 13. So that gets Pete's honorary mention. And congratulations to Tom Shanks for your everyone's bracket. This is fine. We did like that one. Right, episode 14 memes. We're going to get your live reaction for this, Pete. Would you like them on Messenger or on Skype?
Doesn't matter. Whichever one works easiest for you guys.
Okay, right. Dale's going to send them to you.
Yeah.
Right,
here we
first
go.
up, we have Sam Robbins. Nemo BattleBots 2020 has finished. Now what? Are you right there, darling?
As I sit here and wait for my turn to get my fucking vaccine because I'm over 50. Yes, this is very good, whoever did this.
This one was by Sam Robbins. Right, next up, we have Will Hahn submitted a Bite Force Endgame SpongeBob. Write that down, meme.
Putting the image. I think I prefer the one before.
Okay.
But this is funny, but I think I prefer the one before.
We've got one more.
Okay.
We loved it so much. It's come up 2 weeks in a row. This is Owen Ratcliffe's Orange Tantrums.
There were several images, but this is just one.
This was our favourite one.
That's pretty good. I got a fire hat. I like that. That's funny. But I think for me, the more encapsulating one is the BattleBots competitors waiting for 20. That one was
okay. So congratulations, 20. Sam Robbins. There we go. You win the episode 14 meme of the week so far. As chosen by the Bot Whisperer. Don't you feel special?
Oh, I feel so special.
He's now the meme whisperer.
So I'm surprised because in the fight with Endgame Whiplash, when Whiplash comes out of the arena right in front of me, there is this straight on camera shot of me making an O face that I'm surprised has not ended up on the screen.
Well, it will now, Pete.
will now,
It
yeah.
will now. You only need to tell us once.
Yes.
We don't need any more encouragement. Pete, thank you so much for being on the show. We've been delighted having you. This has been lots of fun.
Thanks. I love being it. Thanks for having me. I mean, this was a blast. Anytime. You call me up, I'll do it anytime.
Do you have any shout outs you'd like to give out before we go?
Well, you know.
Al Kindle. Thanks, Al, for joining us.
Al was fabulous. But one of the things I was going to say is the people that should get a big shout out is like Aaron Catling and Chris Cowan and Tom Gutteridge and Troy Combs and, of course, above all, Greg and Trey. Like, making this show that has this following and all these people that love this show, like, and they let me be on it. Like, how did that happen? Like, this is so. I think I have a pretty good life. Is that what I should say? Because yes, I'm pretty happy with what's going on.
I mean,
that's my big show.
You've got a pretty sweet existence in the bot world. I'd love your job. I'd love a fucking job right now. I'm still unemployed thanks to fucking
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I know. That's a dark laughter.
It's fine. It's fine. I dark laugh as well. I ugly laugh at myself and my employment status regularly. I have to deal with the welfare office and it's just, oh, God, give me strength. But I shan't traumatise the Shunt posting listeners with this.
We shall not.
We shall not. We shall not. Pete, thank you so much for being on the show. Ladies and gentlebots, that is it. It is the end of the Shuntcast, and we know we haven't covered Bounty Hunters yet. We're going to get round to it. It's the end of the season, so right now we're going to have a little breather. And then we will pick up with the Bounty Hunters soon enough. So on that note, it's goodbye from the Bot Whisperer.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Dale.
Bye-bye.
And it's goodbye from the Queen. Goodbye.